Welcome back to The Manual, podcast where we talk about the stuff most men's podcasts are too afraid to touch. Today's episode is going to be wild, raw, and real. Buckle up. Welcome back to The Manual. Today we're going to sit in confusion, pain, conviction, trauma, and process it together. You know, so much of life, healing, transformation can oftentimes be wrongly misunderstood as the things that we went through, right? Back then, it's way easier to share about, you know, when I acted out or used 6 weeks ago or 2 years ago.
Right. I used to.
Yeah, I used to do this, or I did that back there. But it's a lot harder to say this just happened or I'm currently feeling this. Those words are hard to speak. And we want to sit into it. We want to press and lean into the weight and the emotion of this present moment. Nick and I have been talking frequently over this past week. I wouldn't say daily because so much in our personal lives has been going on this past week, but near daily since last Wednesday. I'm not sure when this episode will drop, but Wednesday the 10th when Charlie Kirk was shot. Nick and I were at that moment with our team at the Net Center in West St. Paul, taking headshots, celebrating with our team, and then going out to dinner, and then going to Portal Thermoculture for a sauna cold plunge sesh together with the team. And it was so good, but it was weird.
Yeah.
It was heavy. I think both you and I felt like we just wanted to cry, that there was a kind of palatable grief hanging in the air, a kind of confusion. And then as the dust has settled, that certainly hasn't gone away. But there's been a mix of grief and conviction. Conviction, I think, maybe more than anything, that we're in a moment in history. That certainly we're in a moment, as many people have already spoke to, between good and evil, where the battle is at our front door, if you will. And it goes far beyond Democrat and Republican. And Nick and I were just talking before we got on here about some of the conspiracy theories, some of the this doesn't make sense, what's happening with this case isn't matching up, the details that aren't making sense, that both sides of the aisle, free thinkers, if you will, are laying out, that it's maybe even a reality, good versus evil, in the context of what Charlie so often stood for, which is the people rising up to not overthrow the government, but to reset the way that government approaches putting America first, right? And in his last days, there were a lot of things he was saying, but certain people outside of the U.S. and the way that they approached America. And we're not going to get into any of that today, but just to lay sort of the foundation and the groundwork. There's so many people you can go and listen that are far more knowledgeable about the inside out that we're listening to, and trying to take all sides into consideration, try to listen to free thinkers all across the land, if you will, to be able to come up with our own thoughts and ideas about what's happening here, and not so that we can pick a side. Certainly, we have our moral convictions, and we believe first and foremost in the gospel of Jesus Christ. We believe that he is a real human person that changed our lives and that we serve him. And so that looks a certain way, like so much of what Charlie stood for. I don't get to decide the rules. I follow the rule that was laid out before me, and it's not a restrictive rule that I used to think was the case when I was a teenager and into college, but it's a rule and a way of life that leads to freedom, that leads to life, that leads to flourishing. And I've experienced that first and foremost in my own life, which has allowed me personally to say no to things that are bad for me. That might make me feel good in the moment, believing that way of life, that fullness of life, is possible for me. So that's our conviction and grounding, far more than a political ideology or a way of we think the land should be ruled. But we also think that we're in this moment where men are waking up, and we want to be a part of that, right, Nick? We want to be a part of the solution, part of the healing and transformative work that God is about in our day. And it's not doesn't mean that it's about to get, I think that's a week later. There's certainly a sense of like it's not the waking up doesn't mean we overthrow the government like the Jews hope for in Jesus's time. Like now it's
Right.
finally here. We're
Yeah.
finally going to live in the reality of life. It's still a matter of will you pick up your cross and follow me? This is going to be really hard.
Yeah.
But that we're in a unique moment in history where it's happening. It's happening. We don't know what is happening in its entirety, which is part of the overwhelm, but something is happening. So, Nick, I'd love to hear from you what's been on your heart, what's stirring in you as as you've sat and allowed yourself to grieve and to develop conviction in this moment. Yeah, what's it been like for you and what's on your heart today?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting grieving because, like, what am I grieving? Who am I grieving? What's the grief process? Like, what's the object of it? Because I mean, I didn't necessarily subscribe to Charlie. The algorithm threw him my way. I liked a lot of things, but the reality is certainly over the last week, I've watched way more of his stuff than I did before. And so it wasn't like I had necessarily pledged my allegiance to Charlie, but the initial emotion I experienced after the wait, I remember I came in, I said, he died because my sister-in-law's best friend's husband works at Tipping Point and texted. And we were like, whoa, like the weight. It's just interesting that like when you face a reality or when words communicate the reality of what happened, all of a sudden things shift. And like, it was like the world shifted at the news. Something has happened. And I started looking at stuff, and I think certainly the first 24 hours, deep sadness. And I'm even experiencing it now as you're talking. And the sadness certainly, first of all, was directed towards his, Erica and his two kids. And that I couldn't stop thinking about it. We're sitting in the sauna at 213 degrees. I'm like, I just can't stop thinking about it and trying to be present. But I, multiple times that night, I wake up and I see the image of his little daughter running into his arms. And there has not been, I mean, every time I see my little girls downstairs, I can't stop sitting with them and embracing them. And like, I don't want to miss this. I don't want this experience that I'm having be a passing moment to where, how do I be present? I mean, the what death can do. This is the memento mori thing, right? Remember your death. Like, we don't remember that you're in a battle. We don't remember all like these things when we're living, and when I'm living in my whitewashed suburban comfortable world, I'm just it's not in my face. And there's so much power to that, facing it, because I mean, in wartime, there's clarity. Things are kind of brought into focus. What matters? Where do I stand?
Who's the enemy? It's us versus them.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Like in wartime, it's clear that you are fighting against others who are the enemy, right? There's a kind of unity in the village about protecting one another.
Right.
And this is within us.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That it feels like many conservatives that I've heard over the past week have spoken to, this is fractured beyond the point of repair.
Yeah.
Right? And unity.
Yeah.
That this is the breaking point where the enemy is within us. And so then what do I do about that? Do I consider all my liberal family and friends as enemies, as opposition, as people I would be willing to fight against in the circumstance? Right? Or how do you navigate that? Some of the anger that I've experienced over the past week, and that I think underneath the anger is still grief.
Yeah. When have you experienced anger?
I think it's particularly over the weekend. Yeah, I think there have been different moments of it where there just has been really. Yeah, well, I think the only way I can put it into thought is like I would be willing to fight. Like, I would be willing to fight my neighbor over this if it came to it. Or I would be willing to fight, and I don't it's not that I agree with it, but that the vitriol, whether it be trained
Yeah.
by the algorithm or because of the depth of my conviction of good versus evil, I'd be willing to fight for what I believe in,
Yeah.
right? And again, it's far from active, if you will, but it's a recognition of, like, that's in me. Like, there's a kind of protective,
Yeah.
uh, resolved, resolute that I think, like you're saying, doesn't exist in this context, but because there isn't a mobilization of a physical army or a kind of movement against, right? It in the aftermath, it's been really a matter of war, of words, right? People getting onto the internet and spouting this thing or that thing, and then the fallout of all of that stuff. That it's just been
Right.
everybody is talking,
Totally.
and it wasn't helpful before. I was going to say that it wasn't helpful before, but it didn't solve the problem before,
Yeah.
and it seems to only be evolving the turmoil now.
Yep.
And so then it's like, what's the resolution going to look
Yeah.
like?
The lines are not delineated as clearly as they were in the middle 1800s with the Civil War.
Right.
Right, north and south.
Right.
Now it's like, is it blue states versus red states? No, I'm from
Right.
Illinois. It's like
Right.
Chicago,
Yeah.
and
Can
then
you
the
guys all
rest of
put on
Illinois.
red so that I know that you're my enemy, and we'll all wear blue so
Right.
that it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I mean, and I think that's the going back to the good and evil thing is it's like, it's so disguised.
Totally.
It's so shadowy.
Yeah.
It is so cloaked in darkness that it feels like very much like fighting and processing through a war you're watching play out online with an invisible enemy. I'm curious in terms of the weight. I mean, there is something so true about what we saw with George Floyd. I think that was in 2020.
Yep.
And here, because the execution, if you will, the killing, the dying was so public that everybody on the internet, or 90+% of people on the internet, watched it happen.
Yeah.
What do you think, regardless of political ideology or what happened, like, what do you think about that in terms of how it hit you particularly and has sat so weighty? Like, imagining he dies in a back alley, or someone, he gets killed out of sight of cameras, and so you
Yeah.
never see it play out. Do you think it hits you the same way?
Well, I have done a good job avoiding the explicit videos. I had somebody tell me, Nick, since this is affecting you so much, I think you should watch the close-up where there is this explosion of blood. I said, no, thank you. Not necessary for me to feel more.
Yeah. What was the reason? What was the reasoning? Like, get through it so you can get beyond it, kind of a thinking.
Oh, what he was thinking?
Yeah.
Well, his thought. So he's up in Minnesota. He actually knows some people at the Annunciation. Right? Is that the church?
Yep.
But he's like, it's interesting how this affected me so much more. And his interpretation of of why that was because he saw it. He saw what happened in this video. I'm like, okay, yeah, that might, but I think there's, and you could probably speak into some of this, the psychological side of it, but just the trauma. Yes, your own personal experience of trauma, but even just witnessing something so traumatic, what that can do as the eyes see something and it lands on the brain, and what that shoots through your body, the experiences that you physiologically experience. I mean, there is a level of trauma there, and everyone responds so differently to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the way from complete, just shock to mockery, which is crazy to how people cope with it. But yeah, it's and at the same time, I think it's helpful to a degree to look at evil, right? This is kind of like abortion. If I'm honest, abortion, at the level of evil that it is, my experience internally does not equate with the level of how evil it is with my conviction of how evil it is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like I'm looking at it.
Right.
It's not as Holocausty. It's like because after the Holocaust, like these were like in neighborhoods basically, these
Right.
ghettos.
Right.
They made the citizens walk and look.
Right.
There's something important about that. Look at the evil.
Yep.
Look at it.
Yep.
And there's certainly a balance there, but yeah, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I think there is something. I certainly don't think we're in this situation nationally or even personally if it doesn't happen publicly. Nor do
Yeah.
I think that's the case back when George Floyd, because so much of it becomes like, well, we don't really know what happened.
Right.
You know, like he got shot, like, and then it's a big deal politically.
Right.
You know, and then the major difference between those two events beyond being on camera is one of the things you and I have talked about this past week, which is getting his commitment and resolve to get out there and be on the front lines with people, change so many people's lives.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, and to your point, like I wasn't really that attached to him personally. I didn't listen a lot of things, and I'll talk about one in particular that always sort of rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, I didn't watch him for my daily news. I wasn't really plugged in, but I hearing so many people say like this was the guy.
Yeah.
You know, he was leading the movement.
Yeah.
Gave me a real appreciation for who he was, his commitment and his conviction to live, whether you agreed with the ideas or not. Like he was a man who lived out of his ideals with no compromise, right?
Yeah.
You look
Totally.
like somebody like Elon Musk and you hear like Elon Musk is great, richest man on earth. Oh, by the way, he does drugs while he's on the road to keep going.
Right.
And he has 37 wives. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to reconcile that.
Totally. Totally.
And Charlie Kirk, like, hey, it'd be better if I didn't drink. Okay, I won't drink.
Yeah.
I would be more effective at loving my wife and kids if I went out without blank. Okay, I'll go without blank.
Yeah.
Right? There was a kind of personal conviction and willingness to live out the ideal, not just talk about the ideal, that I think is really admirable. That I can't claim for myself. That there was a kind of resolve and commitment and willingness to work harder than anybody else for the cause that he believed in. And I think, you know, again, not to make his political movement too much about good and evil, but made his commitment to upholding what he idealized as good as a real threat to what he perceived as evil. Right.
Right.
And he did it better than almost anybody. And I think part of the conviction in myself, I think, is because of the void. Because I think he genuinely did care a bit about people's well-being.
Yeah.
The big sticking point I very often had with watching his videos when he was alive was that I thought he missed the person in front of him a lot. Right? I don't personally believe that most of these people that hold crazy ideas got there through deep reflection, ordered thinking, philosophy. I think they got there through wounding and pain,
Right.
and hatred and hurt and trauma, to the point where they accepted some pretty crazy self-harming ideology about themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And the one he spoke to so often was the trans issue. And there'd be a person who disliked themselves as they were so much to consider doing something so significant to change themselves, to feel like what they felt like they were supposed to be. And we know identity, belief, self-belief is freaking massive to being well, to living an integrated life. And I don't think there is any other rational way to view that situation than a deep disintegration of being.
Yeah.
And though a desperate attempt to reintegrate. And I don't think it's entirely fair to say, I mean, look at Tyler Robinson as an example. Like, he grew up in the American Mormon. We don't know too much about his family, but looked like they had a nice life. Like, it doesn't look like outside looking in deeply traumatic. But what do we know from so many of the guys that we work with? Deep fatherlessness.
Yep.
Deep hurt and wounding from the family that they grew up in. Deep unaddressed pain. And these are guys who are, many of them are married, still Christian or Catholic, trying to do the thing, live right, right? The reality of the world that we live in isn't evil in the Democrat world and goodness in Republican camp. Like, evil has come into our homes and we've let it come.
Yeah.
That it has been allowed to rule and have dominion over my life as a husband and father, which has affected my kids.
Yeah.
And I think the conviction more than anything is what my mom told us growing up. And there was plenty of that, like plenty of evil coming into our house that affected my life as a child. But I remember her constantly saying, like, that, like, speaking to that reality, like, we are letting evil in and things are getting worse and darker as a result of us letting evil. And I don't think it's a matter of letting evil into the White House or evil into, that's not where it starts, right? It's letting the slow slide of evil and hurt on the family level and on the individual level.
Yep.
And as that manifests and grows, it can boil over into these bigger atrocities, or to the point where people are getting elected that you're like, how on the heck did we get there?
Yeah.
And many times you have to look generations ago. Like, how was wounding and hurt and trauma, as it says in scripture, being handed down from generation to generation to generation? And the only answer at some point is that good men and women stand up and say, it stops with me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the conviction that is, I don't know if I have been this convicted I have not been this convicted in a really long time. And it's crazy. Like this one man, how he has affected me so much as I continue to think about it and contemplate it. I mean, this man had a strong backbone, seemingly uncompromising. Sure, I think sometimes he missed the person. There are times I'm like, he could have been a little more tactful, but all things, as I look at all of it, I'm like, man, I long to have that similar level of uncompromising fortitude. Like, what do I stand for? What am I fighting for? And it's Charlie Kirk may have testified to Christ in our generation more than anyone alive. I don't know if that's true. There's the other guy, that older guy who explicitly just preaches the gospel. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know his name.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a stretch or even incorrect to call him an American martyr, right? Technically, by the Catholic definition, he won't be. He won't be elevated to that level, but he hands down is a martyr for for free speech, a martyr for the gospel. I mean, some of his final words, maybe 5 minutes before he died, I have them written down here. He looked out to the crowd of, hostile, unbelieving college students that were there. And he says, it's not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, rose on the third day, and he's Lord and God over all. Man, I'm sitting here yesterday at coffee with a guy on our nonprofit board, and there's somebody next to me that, as if I'm judging a book by its cover, I'm like, they probably don't have the same beliefs we do. And I'm feeling a little bit of resistance and fear coming up within me. And I think of Charlie. And I'm like, I can do this. I can be courageous and be okay if my words are overheard. Like, I long to be he was a dangerous man.
Yeah.
He was intellectually dangerous. He was spiritually dangerous. And I just think so many men, myself included, want to be that, want to be a spiritual warrior, want to be an intellectual warrior. You mentioned fighting. I don't know the future, but I I have not been thinking about getting trained, you
Yes.
know, like gun safety. But deeper than all that is just this deep conviction of what am I standing for? And it's relatively easy to get on a podcast. But am I getting out there?
Right.
Am I in the arena?
Right.
Am I on the let the university campus be a metaphor, right? Am I am I going? And
Yep.
I mean, we're living, this is nothing new, but we're living in an apostolic age where we have to freaking go out.
Right.
Like this is the way this is the way the gospel of the kingdom is always spread. It
Right.
isn't through these great structures and this top down, let's do all this stuff. No,
Right.
it's the viral. I mean, the early Christians are the model. They live differently. They love differently. They work differently. They went out and they got after it. And it's like, well, the systems and structures, they'll figure it. Well, that'll get figured out, but we got to go.
Yeah.
We got to go. And
It's a valuable point that pretty much the entire New Testament beyond the Gospels was the original Twitter files.
that's hilarious.
Paul sending his thoughts from afar into the metaverse back down to humanity.
Never heard that. That's good, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean what we've so often heard, I think, from political figures, certainly here after I live in Minnesota, so after the Annunciation, many political people here were saying, something to the degree of like talk with your feet. Or this is the time for action, for movement, for going, and I think there is this dramatic desire to go, and something you and I have talked about often this past week is like, what's our role? Go where,
Right.
with
Right.
who,
Right.
and how, right? And I think that's what I think many people, I think all people to some degree are stirred up to go. But I think a huge question that needs to be answered questions that need to be answered are the ones that I just posed. It's like, where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? What needs to happen? Right? And yeah, I think in my heart, there's two responses. One, to any evil, especially as that evil can be reflected back to me, right? Take the log in your own eye out before you take the needle in another, which is so much of the problem people are giving to Charlie. He was this, that, and the other thing. Well, how are you doing?
Right.
How are you loving your family? How are you loving the people around you? Even my criticism of like, I don't think he saw the person enough. Like, nor do I.
Right.
Right? So I should take the log out of my own eye first before I cast judgment on another. And the soul's response to the perceived battle between good and evil has been grief and conviction. And the answer to that grief and conviction still remains the same as the kerygma lays out for us, which is pray, confess your sins, repent, and believe in the gospel.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Believe in the good news. And then go and sin no more, right?
Yeah.
That it's to re-engage first and foremost my personal life with more order, more commitment, more intentionality, to being a man of integrity, to being a man worth following, to being a man of character, of conviction, of resilience, right? So I think, as you were talking earlier, I was thinking of the Rocky Balboa quote. It's not about how hard you can hit.
Yeah.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. What do we tell guys all the time in the Freedom Group? What is this fundamentally about? What's the training they're undertaking for the next year? Shoulder discomfort.
Yeah.
Learn to welcome pain.
Yep.
This is the worst year to have the best year of your life.
Right.
You will learn nothing if this year's easy.
Yep.
If this next year's a cakewalk, right? Fortunately, a lot of the inner workings of their brain means that there will be friction on the way out of craving if it's only dealing with craving, but it's sometimes helpful for there to be environmental pain and challenge, for there to be family, relational pain and challenge, intrapersonal challenge, because those are all opportunities for my development, for my growth, and my willingness to stay in them is how I live out the gospel in my personal life. So that's the first conviction. And then the second one I think you and I have talked a lot about, which is like, again, we're still weighing, what does that look like for us?
Right.
What's our individual and then our organizational role in it? But we need to go. We need to get out there, be with others, connect with others, right? Organize with others,
Yeah.
right? We need to be together in a really intentional, meaningful way. Again, not to align political beliefs or ideology, but to, I mean, I think Charlie, again, whether you dislike and disagree with all of his politics, his tact, whatever, he was having tent revivals.
Right.
And
Right.
half the crowd in those tent revivals were people that believed everything he said. And then the other half were people he hated everything he said,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
the
What if we
last
had
person
that
that was doing
50-50
that,
percentage in our churches? Half of you disagree with everything we're saying.
yeah. And the last person who did that was Billy Graham,
Wow.
right? And I don't even think he may have had that kind of split between
Yeah.
significant polarized ideologies. And I think our day and age needs more of it. It needs more engagement. Maybe, not on social media and not in the kind of public way, but it needs the kind of, he gave a generation of men permission to shoulder their shit in
Yeah.
the same way that I think Jordan Peterson started.
100%.
Choose your hard. Stop being a whiny little bitch.
Yeah.
If I can use that, again, we use nicer language. Discomfort is your teacher and pain is the path, but pick up your freaking cross.
Yep.
It's good for your brain. It doesn't just mean self-mortification or the death of self. That's the road to life.
Right.
Learning to shoulder responsibility, learning to be, my favorite book in college was Resilience by Eric Greitens.
Come on.
And like, there was, for me, when I read that book, it was motivating because it was the gap between who I was at that moment and who I
Right.
wanted to be.
Right.
Well, guess what? The only way you get to be where you want to be, like you said, is having the courage to do the things that freak you out. One of my best friends, who's now a religious brother, at the bottom of his email for, I don't know if he still has it, but for a very long time when he and I worked in ministry together, the tagline of his email was, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but being willing to move in the face of it."
So good.
And yeah,
Yep.
I'll never forget. I mean, I've read the tagline of a lot of people's emails before, but that's always stuck with me at first and
Yeah.
foremost because that has seldom been who I am. More often than not, I wake up in the morning and don't want to engage life.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it again. I don't want to communicate. I don't want to get out there. I don't want to go. There's resistance. I want to hide. I feel vulnerable. I feel weak. Right? And will I start again?
Yeah.
And that doesn't stay with me all day, but it's a choice in those first moments to decide, do I engage life again? Or do I let the emotion beckoning me to seek comfort and isolation and say what feels safe to win? Or am I willing to
Yeah.
go into sacrifice?
Right. And am I willing to go and sacrifice? You have to have a vision for something in order to sacrifice and give you purpose to the pain, right? Which is why we say you don't stop something by stopping something. You stop something by starting something, by having a vision for the man that you want to become so that you're drawn towards that. Because, I mean, getting back to that, what you were saying about, what does it specifically look like? How does this play out? I don't freaking know. And I think when we, and if you are asking that question, I think it's the wrong question. Because I think there are so many different ways it can look. Like, as long as you are, the gospel simply, Jesus said, is the kingdom of God is here. The rightful king has landed, and go. Proclaim that, live your life. And I think particularly as we talk about pain is the path, discomfort is your teacher, and Jordan Peterson says, pick your damn suffering. It's And even fear and resistance, speaking of courage, fear, it's almost like a signpost pointing you to like where to go. Walk down this path. Jordan Peterson says, if you run from the dragon, it grows. But if you confront it, even if it destroys you, you still win, right? Because why? Because the thing that you're most looking for is often hidden in the places you least want to look. And it's just like, it's in the going that you become. And it's at the end of the day, what this world needs are the image bearers of the invisible God to continue to grow in his image and become more me. The glory of God, Irenaeus says, is man fully alive. And it's going to play out in different areas and in different avenues and different spheres or different mountains in society, government, family, education, business, recreation, leisure, arts, all of it. And we all have unique gifts for that. But as we, I so deeply long to become a man of virtue, a man of character, a man of my ideals that grows in that uncompromising conviction to lean, and the resistance is, as the muscle grows, greater battles come our way, and wanting to do it with others. So Joe, I just want to get thousands of men, hundreds of thousands around the world to like be a part of this, like get in the arena. And it's because I need it, because I want it,
Yep. Yeah.
So
good.
I've been thinking recently, my buddy back home, I was recently home for his 40th birthday, Illinois State's attorney, Tom Hain, shout out. He's got 4, they call them exemplars, like 4 men on his wall that he wants to strive to become. And it's helpful because he looks at him, he's like, there's certain ideals about each man that he wants to possess within him. They're his dad, who's passed away. He was a state senator in Illinois. Abraham Lincoln, come on. St. Jose Maria, and St. Thomas More. I was telling Teresa this last night. I said, I think I want to get a picture of Charlie and put him on my wall to remind myself, like, what is it? Am I getting in the arena? And to have it, like, I need reminders. I need, to have a mirror, have it being put in front of me. Am I getting out there? Am I becoming someone? Am I leaning into the resistance? Am I running towards or confronting the dragon so that I can become the man that my family needs, my bride, my children needs, that my friends need, that my neighbors need, that this world needs. And then how it plays out, I think there's a lot of creativity there.
Yep. I had a moment on Monday. I was sitting with my 2 boys, trying to help them get started on their homeschool work before I went off to work myself. And Monday, I was just all morning, just agitated, stressed. Kind of could sense it, notice it growing all morning. And stress has played a big role in my life. I think we talked about that in a recent episode. Learning how to navigate and deal with stress is a big deal for me, even right now, learning how to deal with it in a healthy way and learn how to invite others into it and ask for what I need in those moments is still something that I'm actively working on. I think you said on a recent podcast, maybe it was too long ago for our audience to remember, but you referenced Dr. Kevin Majors, where he says, cognitive behavioral therapy is pro-anxiety, right? That kind of idea of the goal is not to become anxiety free. The goal is to learn how to meet anxiety when it comes.
Yeah.
That it's no longer a dragon, that it's a signal. And I found myself doing that as I sat with the boys. I mean, my anxiety, generalized, not related to something specific, not attached to it, had nothing to do with what I was facing that day or something that was coming up, just was there. And it reached the point where it felt like I was going to have a panic attack. Like the conscious thought was, I don't think I can take any more of this. And my hands tapping on the table. And at one point, Krista was like, I can take over. Like, you can go do your work and I said, no, I can sit here. And I was just in that moment trying to allow myself to be present to it.
Yeah.
And to not run from it. And even the small act of running to work felt like running. Well, I'm just going to go and start doing stuff in order to try to get this to go away.
Yep.
right? And I'm not saying that that's always a negative thing, but in that moment, there was something in me that said, like, no, I need to allow this to rise to the level that it's going to rise in me, to feel the
Yeah.
agitation, to feel the sense of, I don't want to say explosion, but that this is going to overcome me and like
Yeah.
physically overwhelm me, and I can do it.
Yeah.
And it rose, and just in the same way that we teach guys about craving, when you allow yourself to feel it and to notice it, it increases in intensity. And the more that you let it be there and welcome its presence, it starts to dissipate and go away. And I experienced that.
Yep.
Like all of this stress that had been building over the morning as I sat and allowed myself to breathe, the breath didn't take it away. The moment I started doing deeper breathing,
Yeah.
it increased in intensity. It felt like it was going to overwhelm me. And then it started to dissipate.
Yeah.
And for me, that's that's that is as important an exercise and practice in my life that I need to be committed to in a non-negotiable way, as is exercising every day, as is having a rule of life for my prayer life and finding time for silence every day,
Yeah.
right? That, and I share that because I think very often the invitation that we can have as men is to feel like we need to do more, get out there more, go more, right? That it's this kind of excelling in work, right? Or excelling in our sphere of influence. Call all
Mhm.
your friends, get together with everybody you know, it's talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think there is a reality where that all that stuff is, I think, good. Those are all
Yep.
good. But I think we miss the opportunity to let what's coming up in us come up and feel it fully and to allow it to train our body and brain in new ways of how to respond to that stuff as it comes. What is that doing? Well, one, the next time it comes up, the next time I experience stress in the morning or in the evening or whatever, my brain and body will be better at processing all that. And it
Right.
won't compound so much. I'll become more effective and it won't outlet to anger or to another maladaptive form. But more than that, it'll matter when it matters most.
Right.
Right? When you are in the situation where you need the training,
Right.
because the situation does call for stress or does call for hypervigilance. But normal hypervigilance would be a fight or flight that is uncontrollable to yourself. So
Right.
you would just become reactive. And that's one of the things I admired so much about Charlie and hearing about the testimony of Charlie's life is he wasn't that great. He wasn't the best in the world or best in class at many things when he started, but his commitment to practice every single day
Yeah.
made him get to the point where he was an excellent arguer, where he could go to Stanford and Harvard and Oxford and have these debates with the most intellectual young people on earth, right? Not just punk college kids like you and I work with
Right.
most of the time or have worked with in the past, right? People like we used to be like, go into those contexts. 10 years prior, he would have got destroyed, but for his willingness and commitment to practice,
Yeah.
to exercise, to be
Yep.
committed, and to
Mhm.
do that intellectually, but also to learn how to do that emotionally, to self regulate, to calm down in the face of
Yep.
a situation that calls for panic, if you will. And so I agree with you. I think there's an invitation here. There's an invitation to get in the game, to engage and lean into conviction, to mobilize together, to not do this alone, to commit to your sphere of influence first, right? Like that my place, my circumstance that I find myself in is the best place to start doing this now. And that's I've appreciated who you are, Nick, and the way you show up so much is because I see that like you showing up changed or affected to your family, to your groups, to our team, I think is a big part of the way that this starts because it requires all of us to stop and lean back and to feel it, to feel what
Mhm.
we're feeling because you're letting yourself feel what you're feeling, to consider what does this mean for me?
Mhm.
How do I live this out? What can I do? And then to mobilize, like this group of people, what's happening in the freedom group as we continue to dream about what God wants to do here, what we want to see this become, that guys see themselves as a part of a mission that's doing more than just liberating them from craving.
Yeah.
That it's helping them find a community of men walking in purpose in their life, to not just, and I don't think this is what TPS USA was doing, because I think it was helping a lot of men change their lives. But you and I really have committed to getting in men's lives deeply and
Mhm.
helping them experience that transformation, because I think the original conviction was that we needed a lot more help. We could have got a lot further, a lot faster if someone was willing to get into our lives to the level that we're attempting to build out here
Yep.
for other men, right? Rather than get on campus for a day and then live in your peer-led chapter for 4 years at your college campus. What if we got alongside guys in a really deep and intentional way and coached them to that outcome? How fast they get to that outcome? So that, in my case with pornography, they don't have to wait 13 years to find the answer.
Right.
Collapse that time frame into less than a year.
Yep.
Or in the work we do in the Kingmakers community, help guys build a life plan. Who do you want to become the day that you get taken off of this earth? What do you want others, the most important people in your life, to say about you, and writing the eulogy, and to think about that 30,000-foot view of your life? And then, okay, what the hell are you doing about it today?
Yeah.
Right? I just heard yesterday at a conference I was at, someone speaking on trust, and he was talking about the only way to build trust in an organization or in a family, et cetera, is to be intentional about what you're doing in order to cultivate trust. And he used, he was talking about integrity, trust, and he used, I don't remember his specific line of thinking, but he talked about how much the average American watches Netflix a year, watches something on a app. And I think it was like 1,500 hours or something like that.
It's like 5 hours a day.
Yeah. And the invitation, I think, just again, zooming back into this situation, we look at a guy, regardless of what you believe about his ideology, lived on mission and poured out his life for what he wanted. And we have a guy who took his life, who lived on the internet, who everything that has come out, whether he's a paid actor or was involved in a bigger thing or not, was somebody that lived on Discord in a digital world, that played video games in order to get life, to experience, and to feel fulfilled.
Right.
And we see the two outcomes in 9 years difference on Earth of what that life led them to accomplish, both as their ultimate reward as well as their ultimate impact. And I think again, regardless of where you stand on the political divide, the impact of one was admirable and unequivocally valuable. And yeah, the other one was cowardly and addicted to pleasure, and in no way deeply ordered to connected to a integrated way of life. And I think that's why there's 44,000 inquiries for new TP USA chapters, because I think people look at the way he lived his life and say, I want that.
Yeah.
I want to live like that. Will you
Yep.
teach me how to live like that? I want to get around other people that want to live like that. And I think that's the moment we're in. I think that's the opportunity we have, regardless,
Yep.
again, of political affiliation, but to be around, to be more deeply committed, to be around other people who are willing to spend all of themselves for the ideals that they hold as valuable, that they believe in. And that freaking matters.
Yeah. Let's get after it, baby. I'm ready, man. One step at a time.
I'd love to know, just to close this out, a lot of vision, a lot of conviction. What does it look like? Maybe it's too early to say, but maybe there's one thing that you would point to. What does it look like practically that's changing in your life as a result of this? One commitment you've made, or thing that you've taken up, or exercise practice, or something that you've removed as a
Yep.
result of this.
Well, what I'm starting to do is I'm having conversations. I'm talking, like even just talking with Tyler yesterday. We got lunch, and what's stirring in his heart. I mean, just wanting to be dangerous, as I said earlier, physically dangerous, spiritually, be a warrior, and intellectually. Okay. And he goes, but we got to do it with others. So having that conversation, I'm calling people, I'm talking to people, hearing what's stirring in their hearts and sharing what's stirring in mine, and kind of discovering what's stirring in mine. I'm meeting with the owner of my gym tomorrow because he's a technically, I mean, he's like a trained assassin actually. he's he's got, I mean, gun training, MMA training. I want to ultimately do stuff with others. So I want to start the conversation and really, and I don't know how it plays out. What it it might look like. Hey, let's just start reading some Aristotle and get together weekly and disagree with each other. And practice that muscle. Like, what are the muscles I want to flex, and who's willing to flex them with me, and to stretch some stuff. How does that turn into something practical? More, but I don't know. But I wanna just imperfectly move forward and invite guys into it, and share my heart and say, hey, there's something here, and I don't have all the answers, but I want to be a part of something. And so I'm starting to have conversations this week, and that's something I wouldn't have done
Yep.
before last Wednesday.
Yep. It's good.
What about you?
Two things. One, I think because of, well, I won't give excuses, but I've stopped reading and learning
Yeah.
over the past 3 to 5 month time horizon. I would say summer in particular. And there have been a number of books that are sitting on my bedside table, starting with the Body Keeps the Score. And so I picked it back up, and it just has, I mean, there's just something in that material and content that is, yeah, it just lights me up with intrigue, with hope, with insight that's immediately applicable to life around me, to the coaching work that
Yeah.
we do, to my own life, how I show up and lead. And so it makes such a difference when I'm pouring in and learning. So that's a big commitment. I've been trying to do a chapter a day.
Awesome. Those are long chapters.
They're long chapters. Yeah, it's been easy to do. It's just a matter of whether or not I commit and
Right.
put down my phone mostly at the end of the day and
Totally.
read instead. So that's the number one. And then exercise is the other one that I still have not got surgery. And so it's an easy excuse to say either the day got away from me or I'm feeling it too much today. And the reality is I can work out. It's just not super comfortable. And it's
Yep.
a great opportunity to allow myself some intentional discomfort. So I've been trying to, again, be measured, not go too extreme or stupid with it, given my circumstance presently, but to do 30 minutes of some kind of exercise every single day and be committed to that.
Yeah.
So that's what it looks like in the immediate. And then, yeah, I think there's the question of mobilization, connection, especially
Yeah.
here in Minnesota, is like, what can I get connected to? Which is interesting because, as you talk about like starting something or being a part of something, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what all that is, but the reality of my, maybe it's the reality of my circumstance or just what's coming up in me right now is that I am in a position. Yeah, uh, the central thought is I'm normally the one who wants to start something when there's a moment like this to start something. And I find it curious and interesting of why that's not happening in me.
Hmm.
And so I'm just paying attention to that.
Yeah.
That normally I'm the first one to think like, oh, I got to start a men's thing at my church, or we got to do this, and I'll start shooting around texts and try to make it
Yeah.
happen. It's just not in me.
Interesting.
And so that's been just interesting to pay attention to. And so then I'm, then I sit back and, okay, is that a matter of, okay, what can I be a part of, or just lean into what you're already doing? Because for you, the territory I want you focused on is where you currently are planted.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's the answer, is the work I have you doing is right where you are. So stay where you are.
Yeah.
And so I think just trying to lean into that, create more time and capacity for that, double down on that, really like channel the conviction towards the important work of helping men get free
Yeah.
from craving so that they can live is my personal role in creating the generational impact that we
Yeah.
feel is possible in the world that we're in right now. So, yeah, we'll land the plane here. This is
Come
good.
on.
Thanks so much for
Yeah.
listening. If you made this far, you can find more resources and support on our website at thefreedomgroup.co. We'd love to meet you there. Don't hesitate to reach out. Nick and I would love to connect with you. If it's a matter of porn or engaging more purpose in your life, we have something for you. We would love to walk with you. We would love to have you come with us and join a brotherhood of men who are doing it together. We got some exciting stuff coming up this next quarter that came out of our quarterly meetings last week as our team was all on site together. And so stay tuned for more stuff to come along those lines, and keep pushing in, keep allowing yourself to feel it, and allow yourself to deepen the conviction that is already in you. So we love y'all. And that's a wrap. Peace.
Peace.